Good evening, everyone. I'm Komal Tyagi from Team Taxman, welcoming you all to today's live webinar, Summon, Arrest and Investigations under GST. Though I shall take this opportunity to start with a brief about Taxman. With authenticity as one of our founding principles, Taxman strives to offer its users an enriched experience of tax and corporate laws. It is our goal to make research and compliance easier for the legal community, with our vision to achieve perfection, skill, and accuracy in everything that we do. We have worked strenuously over the years to offer the solutions that will continue to help you grow your practice. Our 6 decades of experience in the domain has helped us to constantly innovate and enhance our services and take the tax practice to a newer height. We have also developed the national website of the Income Tax Department, and we maintain it with the help of our technical team and the editorial. Now I would like to introduce our speaker for the evening, Mr. Tushar Aggarwal. Mr. Tushar holds an experience of more than 10 years in indirect tax. He has worked for more than 8 years with Lakshmikumaran and Sridharan Attorneys. He was also deployed with GSTN for GST implementation and has worked closely with government officials. Tushar specializes in advising clients on complex indirect tax issues, structuring business operations, identifying and advising on tax-efficient business models, etc. He has been involved deeply in various sectors, including real estate, hospitality, aviation, infra, etc. Thank you for being with us, sir. Now, before I proceed, I wish to share some information for the participants. Your mic will be on mute. However, you may post your questions in the available chat box. Your questions will be answered by the speaker during this session or after the session. A copy of the presentation of this webinar shall also be sent to you in email for your future references. Now, without taking much time, I would request Mr. Tushar to address the audience. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Komal. I'm just sharing my screen. Friends, good evening. At the outset, I would like to thank Taxman for giving me this opportunity. In today's webinar, we will be discussing the practical aspects of GST arrest and summon. Friends, we have completed 5 years of GST implementation, and in the last couple of years, we have seen that the department has become very aggressive. Specifically, anti-evasion and DGI authorities, all intelligence-based authorities. We see day in, day out, they give summons on various kinds of issue. Even there is a issue related to 2A, 3B, you get a summon under Section 70. Even if there is certain legal interpretations issues involved, like classification, valuation, reversals of ITC, etc. Day in, day out, they are conducting search, they are conducting investigations, they are issuing summons, and a lot has been done in last couple of months. One is obviously a fake invoice cases, etc. Apart from that, you get various interpretational issues also, pursuant to which department conducts search, they issue summons, they threaten you to arrest. So what the practical problem which we are facing is not that they actually arrest the management, but the way they threaten the management to arrest. Say if there is a classification issue and there the demand is in crores, they will say that either you pay it, otherwise we will start the arrest proceeding, or they will say that we will leak this to media, etc., so that your share price drop. So that's kind of the threat which you actually receive at ground level, which is more scary. So what we will do in this webinar is we will discuss the exact provisions, when can arrest be invoked, how do you deal with the summons, And when actually at ground level, they force you to pay the tax, what should be your strategy? Should you pay the tax whenever a search is conducted, or you should not pay the tax, or you should pay the tax and then adopt for refund, etc.? What practically you should do? Can you pay using ITC, or you have to pay only through cash, etc.? So all these are the answers which we will get in another 1 hour. So before discussing the GST arrest provisions, let us discuss the meaning of 4 terms which will be used again and again. First is cognizable offense. Second is non-cognizable offense. Third is bailable offense. Fourth is non-bailable offense. What do we mean by all these terms? Cognizable offense refers to an offense wherein a police officer can arrest without a warrant. He doesn't need a warrant. He can arrest without a warrant. That is called cognizable offense. Non-cognizable offense means an offense in which a police officer has no authority to arrest without warrant. So until unless he gets a warrant from the magistrate, he cannot arrest. So non-cognizable offense means the police officer cannot arrest without a warrant. Whereas in case of cognizable offense, he can arrest without a warrant. Moving on to bailable and non-bailable. Bailable offense means an offense wherein bail can be claimed as a matter of right. So if any offense is bailable offense, it's not that you have to go to a magistrate, you have to go to a court. Simply you say it's a bailable offense, you write an application and you will get bail automatically. That is called bailable offense. You get bail automatically. It is a matter of right. Non-bailable offense. Non-bailable offense does not mean that you will not get the bail. Non-bailable offense means that bail is a matter of discretion of jurisdictional authority. That is the magistrate. So if you are arrested, then you have to be taken to the magistrate within 24 hours, and it's the magistrate which will decide whether to give bail or not to give bail. So that is called non-bailable offense. So whenever we will talk about the offenses under GST regime, these 4 words will be used. So the term used is as under: cognizable offense and non-bailable offense. It is used together, that these offenses are cognizable and non-bailable, meaning thereby that the officer can arrest without warrant and he has to be taken before the magistrate, and then magistrate will decide whether the bail has to be given or not. Second phrase will be used is non-cognizable offense and bailable offense. Non-cognizable and bailable offense, it will be used together. It means officer cannot arrest without a warrant, and even if arrested, you will get the bail automatically. Just give an application, bail bond, and you get a bail automatically. Section 69 is the relevant section governing the provisions related to arrest. It says that where the commissioner has reasons to believe that a person has committed any offense specified in clause A or clause B or clause C or clause D of subsection 1 of section 132, which is punishable under clause 1 or 2 of subsection 1 or subsection 2 of the said section, he may by order authorize any officer of central state tax to arrest such person. So section 69 provides that if a commissioner has reason to believe, so the first condition to be satisfied is that he should have a reason to believe that it is necessary to invoke the arrest provision. And when can he invoke, when can he authorize any officer to arrest that particular person? If he has committed any of the specified offenses as mentioned in section 69. So both the conditions should be satisfied. First, there should be a reason to believe that he has committed, that an arrest is necessary. Second, he must have committed any of the specified offenses as given in section 69. Let's see what are the nature of offenses which are given under section 69. That is clause A, B, C, D of subsection 1 of section 132. Section 132 of the CGST Act. It says, what are the offenses which are included? A person who commits or causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of any of the following offenses, namely, so 2 categories of people are included in this. First is the taxpayer himself who has committed any of these offenses, and second is the person who is not the taxpayer himself, but a person who causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of it. So what is the meaning of this phrase? We will discuss. So there are 2 categories of people which are included in this section 132. And what are the offenses? First offense, supplying any goods or services or both without issue of any invoice with the intention to evade the taxes. So it's kind of a client style removal. You supply goods and services without any invoice. Client style removal, first offense. Second, fake invoicing. Issue any invoices or bill without supply of goods or services or both, leading to wrongful availment or utilization of input tax credit. So it consists of fake invoices. Third is avails input tax credit using such invoices or bills referred to in clause B of fraudulently avails ITC without any invoice. So the recipient who has availed the ITC on the basis of a fake invoice, that is covered. That is the third offense. Fourth is collects any amount as tax but fails to pay the same to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment becomes due. So effectively, if these four offenses are committed, in that situation, the arrest provisions can be invoked. Moving on, the law classify these offenses into cognizable and non-bailable offense or non-cognizable and bailable offense depending upon the quantum of amount and tax involved. Only in cases where if the amount of tax involved is more than 5 crore rupees, I repeat, only in cases where the amount of tax involved is more than 5 crore rupees, registration wise, not PAN wise, registration wise, then all these four offenses, whatever we have discussed, all these four offenses will be treated as cognizable offense and non-bailable offense. If the amount is less than 5 crore rupees, in such a situation, these offenses are non-cognizable and bailable offense, meaning thereby that if you have issued a fake bill of your, and that if the taxpayer has committed any of these offense, however, the tax evasion is say of 1.5 crore rupees, of 1 crore rupees, then the offense is non-cognizable and bailable, meaning thereby that the officer cannot arrest you directly until and unless a proper adjudication is done and prosecution is launched. They cannot just issue you a summon and arrest you. However, in case the tax evasion amount is more than 5 crore rupees, I repeat, if the tax evasion amount is more than 5 crore rupees and you have committed any of these four offenses, then the GST officer has the right to arrest you. He can arrest you without a warrant. It's the commissioner has a reason to believe you have committed these four offenses. Amount is more than 5 crore rupees. He can authorize the central tax officer or the state tax officer to arrest you. Practically, what will happen? They will search you. They will give you summon, and thereafter they will start the arrest proceeding by preparing an arrest memo, and then will take you to the magistrate within 24 hours, and it will be on the magistrate to give you bail or not to give you bail. So what we have discussed is the quantum of the tax evasion that is more than 5 crore rupees, then only the offense is non-cognizable and non-bailable offense. And these are the four offenses that has to be done by the taxpayer. Now, who is covered under this entry? One is the taxpayer himself. Second is a person who causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of it. Now, I am a taxpayer. I am a chartered accountant. I am filing a GST return of some taxpayers. And that particular taxpayer, what he has done, he has committed any of these offense. He has issued fake invoicing, say his total turnover for the month was 25 crore rupees. He issued fake invoices for 10 crore rupees, 10 crore rupees GST amount. As a consultant, I'm not aware. He's doing actual business. I'm not aware like what are his actual transactions, what are his fake transactions, etc. He inflated his turnover. He issued fake invoicing. Can department, and it comes to the knowledge of the department. Can department come and ask me, you are a chartered accountant, you have filed his return, you have abated him and caused this fraud. Accordingly, I will cover you under this phase, who causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of it. See, if I'm filing a normal returns of somebody or a different application of somebody, etc., I'm not committing a fraud. I'm not making him commit this fraud and retain the benefit arising out of it. There is no money which accrued to me. My professional fee for return filing cannot be said to be an amount which is retained by me on account of the fraud undertaken by the taxpayer. And to collaborate what I am saying, I will take you to the agenda notes of the 38th GST Council meetings. Friends, whenever any amendment is issued, like this particular amendment, this phrase which is there, or causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of it, it is effective from 1st January 2021, which was introduced by Finance Act 2020. And whenever there is an amendment is proposed in the act only when the GST Council approves Thereafter, any amendment is proposed in the Finance Act, and whenever there is a GST Council meeting, you will always get the agenda notes of the GST Council meeting, from where you can gather the intention why a particular phrase has been included, or why any amendment has been done. And when we look at the 30th GST Council meeting, I will just read the exact paragraph which was there, why this phrase was included. In the entire operation fraud of fake invoicing, etc., the person who is the mastermind is the key person who abets or causes the commission of an offense. So this is in the light of the fact that there are many cases wherein it's a mastermind who is there. However, the taxpayer number is taken in the name of his servants, laborer, rickshawala, etc. But the mastermind is somebody else who makes the entire strategy for issuing the fake invoice, and it is the mastermind which they want to catch. Otherwise, what was happening? What was the loophole under the law was that who was the taxpayer? The penalty could have been imposed, the prosecution, the arrest provision could have been invoked only on the taxpayers. Whereas I am a mastermind, I'm not a taxpayer. It is my labor who is holding the GSTN number. It is my servant who is holding the GSTN number. To catch hold of that mastermind, this phrase has been included. However, it has to be read in the context of the intention of the law, and you cannot include a mere professional who is providing a consultancy or a return filing or a refund filing services, and for which they get a professional fee. Professional fee is not the benefit which I retain. I repeat, professional fee is not the benefit which I retain. So that's an important aspect which we have to keep in mind. What we discussed in the section 969 was that the commissioner should have reason to believe. So reason to believe means there should be certain sufficient evidences with him which makes him feel that it is necessary to arrest a person, and it should not be mere a suspicion. If we see Gujarat High Court, they said the words reason to believe contemplates an objective determination based on intelligence, care, and deliberation involving judicial review as distinguished from a purely subjective consideration. The Supreme Court in case of Tata Chemicals said reason should be based on that of an honest and reasonable person on reasonable grounds, and not merely on suspicion, gossip, or rumors, etc. Meaning thereby that he should actually have sufficient and reasonable amount of evidences to say that I have to arrest that person. Arresting a person is a big thing. It's a right to the freedom. So ultimately, I should have that sufficient documentations to believe that it is necessary to arrest the particular taxpayer. And when I say I should have a reason to believe, I should have sufficient documents, I should have sufficient evidences, etc., which makes me understand that I should have a reason to believe. It does not mean that all these reason to believe has to be given to the taxpayer. Even if it is in my file and I have not recorded in the arrest memo, I repeat, even at the time of arresting a person, I have to issue an arrest memo, and in arrest memo, I broadly write the reason for arresting, and I don't give the exact details of the evidences which I have. But if I have all these evidences in my records, which I show to the magistrate, whenever a person is arrested, he has taken to the magistrate within 24 hours. And at that time, I show to the magistrate, this is the reason why I arrested him. That is also sufficient. Telangana High Court, in the case of P.V. Ramana Reddy, what it said, if reason to believe are recorded in the files, we do not think it is necessary to record those reasons in the authorization for arrest under section 69(1) of the CGST Act. So whenever you will see the arrest memo, they will at a broader level capture the reason, exact details, exact evidences, etc. is always there in the file. But it has to be there in the file. It is not possible that you don't have a valid reason either on the arrest memo or even in your files. You should have that sufficient reason why you have arrested that person, a very important aspect. So to conclude on reason to believe must be based on some credible material. The commissioner should have applied its mind and judicial review before coming to the conclusion. It should not be based on merely an opinion, rumor, or probability. And important, the same must be in the files. The grounds are not mandatorily required to be mentioned in the arrest memo, but it has to be in writing. It has to be in the files at least. That's the principle which have been involved over the period of time. Moving on, let us now discuss some of the practical aspects of differences between a GST arrest and a normal criminal arrest. If somebody is arrested on account of an offense committed under a criminal law, say murder, etc., vis-a-vis somebody, a taxpayer is being arrested on account of a GST offense, what is the difference in the process of arrest, etc.? Friends, whenever a criminal offense is committed, an FIR is executed by the police officer. So police officer has to execute an FIR pursuant to which he has to arrest that person. Whereas in GST, there is no concept of FIR. What practically happens is a search is conducted under 67, summons are given, statement is undertaken, and thereafter the permission is obtained under 69 from the commissioner, and the authorized superintendent or the officer arrest that person by making an arrest memo, and he has to take him before the magistrate within 24 hours. So there is no concept of FIR in GST law. During the search or at the time of investigation, when summons is given, statement is recorded, and they feel that the person arrest is required, they proceed with the arrest process, issue arrest memo, take authorization under section 69 from the commissioner, and arrest a particular person and take him before the magistrate. No FIR concept. Second major difference is, in a normal criminal offense, if a person is arrested, he is also taken before the magistrate, and in that case, there can be three probabilities. First is magistrate may send him to the judicial custody, meaning thereby jail, like for example, Tihar jail, etc. Second is the magistrate may send him to the police custody. That police may demand his custody for interrogation for a couple of days, etc. Third is he gets a bail. So there is a concept of police custody, judicial custody, or he gets a bail. Whereas under GST law, there is no concept of GST officer custody. There is no concept of police custody. So what practically happens is, whenever you are taken to the magistrate, either you go to the jail thereafter, that is judicial custody, or you come out of bail. So either you are granted bail or you are taken to the judicial custody, that is jail. There is no concept of police custody. Third, ultimately within 60 days, that whenever a person is arrested and he is sent to the judicial custody, within 60 days, the police officer has to file charge sheet. Under GST law, there is no concept of charge sheet. So charge sheet is a term which is used in a criminal offense. What happens under a GST law is that the taxpayer, the officials, the government, the departmental officials have to file a private complaint. It's called a private complaint that has to be filed within the 60 days. So that's the major difference between the actual process which is undertaken in case of a normal criminal arrest and a GST arrest. There are certain rights which are available to the taxpayer who is arrested, and at least these rights are only in paper. Practically many of these rights are not available. I will just read some of the selected rights which are available. Right to know the ground of arrest, that is always given in the arrest memo, why you are broadly arrested on account of this fraud which you are given. Right to be taken before a magistrate within section 24 within 24 hours. So even our section 69 subsection 2 says that he has to be taken within 24 hours to the magistrate, and let the magistrate decide whether to give bail or to set him to judicial custody. Third is right to consult a legal practitioner. So this comes out of section 41D of the CRPC, which is applicable in a GST arrest also, but practically never happens. He's never ever given a right to consult a legal practitioner. It is his family who's consulting and undertaking all the process. He doesn't easily get to meet his lawyer, etc. Another right is the right to be examined by a medical practitioner. Information regarding arrest and place of arrest has to be given to any of his friend, relatives, or any other person, which practically happens. They are giving these kinds of information. Moving on to the type of bails which are available under the GST law, or in fact, normal CRPC process. First is an anticipatory bail. So you know a search is being conducted, or you have been issued a summon, and you know you might have been, and you are aware that you are involved in any of the 4 offenses, or you feel that department will make an allegation that I am involved in any of the 4 offenses, specified offenses, and the tax evasion amount is 5 crore rupees and I want a relief. I can always go to the court for asking an anticipatory pre-arrest bail, anticipatory bail. Practically what is happening under GST is that in some cases bail is being given, in some cases bail is not being given, and even if given, they are giving after making you deposit certain amount to the High Court. So anticipatory bail itself is not so easy to get. There are various judicial judgments on this, whether anticipatory bail can be given or not, or you have to actually file a writ under section 226. Practically, in few cases, courts have allowed. There are cases where they have also demanded pre-deposit. So first is the pre-arrest bail, anticipatory bail, which you have to keep in mind. Second is the regular bail which you get. So regular bail is a bail when you are arrested, you are taken before the magistrate, and thereafter you plead for bail, etc. And in that case, whenever the magistrate and there is a complete hierarchy, whenever any bail, regular bail application is decided, that is based on various factors. Factors namely like the gravity of the offenses, whether the procedure under the provision of CRPC has been followed or not, previous history of the accused, how is my cooperation with the investigation authority, likeliness of hindering the ongoing investigations, chances of tampering the evidence which are yet to be discovered, time, etc., etc. So there are various factors which are involved while deciding whether a particular person has to be granted a bail or not. But if I have cooperated, so it all depends upon the lawyer who's arguing that there was no intention to evade the tax. I'm a genuine taxpayer. I have to plead guilty. When I apply for the bill, I have to plead guilty and make sure that my arrest, if I am given a bail, it will not impact the investigation. That's assurance which the magistrate should get, that if I am being given bail, the investigation will not be impacted. Practically, that's the assurance which is required to be given. Then the next concept is called default bail. So what we just now discussed earlier was that if I am arrested, if a taxpayer is arrested, the department is supposed to file a private complaint within 60 days. If the private complaint is, or normally the charge sheet in layman language, is not filed within 60 days, I am automatically eligible for a default bail. So there are various cases wherein the taxpayers have got default bail. However, there are states like Haryana, nobody is getting default bail. They always make sure that the charge sheet or the private complaint is filed within 60 days. So 60 days is that's a default bail. So practically it's anticipatory bail before arrest, regular bail after arrest, and default bail. Within 60 days, they don't file a private complaint, you get automatic bail. That's called a default bail. During COVID period, there was a concept of interim bail also due to COVID reason, etc., which is not now applicable. Before closing the practical aspects related to the GST arrest provisions, one important question which we must discuss and answer is, can arrest be done only after completion of adjudication? See, in pre-GST era, in Make My Trip, Clear Trip, etc., we had a judgment wherein it was said that there must be in the first place a determination that a person is liable to pay, which cannot happen till there is in first place a determination in terms of section 73, etc. So they said that adjudication has to be there. You issue a show cause notice, you prove that he is liable to pay. There should be a confirmed order. There should be an adjudication order. Then only arrest can be taken. We have these kinds of judgment which is there in the service tax regime. And even in GST, there are few favorable judgments, etc. But two important negative judgment. P.V. Ramana Reddy by Telangana High Court, and in the case of, and again, it's a very important judgment, Vimal Yashwant Giri Goswami by Gujarat High Court. In all these cases, it was held that if the commissioner has reason to believe that the person has committed specified offenses, which we had discussed, without there being any adjudication for the assessment, he can arrest if he has reason to believe. Similarly, it was said that it is not the law that the prosecution can be launched only after prosecution of the assessment or the adjudication. They can arrest before adjudication also. So now we have series of the judgment which says that arrest can be undertaken before adjudication also, because the purpose of arrest is to make sure that the investigation is not hindered. So that's the main purpose of the arrest. And hence all these judgments, they have actually distinguished the Make My Trip. Make My Trip was a Delhi High Court judgment, which was a service tax judgment, which was affirmed by Supreme Court also. All these judgments have distinguished Make My Trip judgment also, and have said that they can be arrested. And practically what's happening is that adjudication is not necessary for arrest. At ground level, department people are arresting before adjudication only. Now let us move to the next topic of the day, handling summons under GST law. Section 70 of the GST Act deals with the provisions related to summons. I will read the provision as it is. The proper officer under this act shall have the power to summon any person whose attendance he considers necessary, either to give evidence or to produce a document or any other thing in any inquiry in the same manner as provided in the case of a civil court under the provision of the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. Therefore, a proper officer has been given a right to call upon any person, the word used is any person, whose attendance he considers necessary. It is only necessary. If he feels that it is necessary to call somebody, there may be an impact. It is not reason to believe. Reason to believe is a much stricter term wherein he should have sufficient evidences. Whereas it is not the case in case of someone, even if he has a gut feeling that somebody has to be called and he feels that this customer may provide me some data, this vendor may provide me some data of the taxpayer, he can summon that vendor, he can summon that customer, he can summon that professional. That is whose attendance he consider necessary, either to give evidences or to produce a document or any other thing. That is, either he may take his statement about the facts of the case, about the particular transaction, etc., or may call upon to submit any of the documentation, etc. A person who is summoned is legally bound to attend these summons, and he is bound to state the truth before the officer. Please note that all this inquiry under Section 70, all these Section 70 inquiries, these are nothing but a judicial proceedings. The law says 70 subsection 2, each such inquiry referred to in subsection 1 shall be deemed to be a judicial proceeding within the meaning of section 193 and 228 of the Indian Penal Code. 193 says person giving false evidence can be imprisoned up to 7 years with fine. 228 says person who offers insult or interrupts any public servant punishable with imprisonment of 6 months with fine. And what is the consequence of non-appearance to summons? If we go to the IPC provisions, non-appearance without reasonable justification, prosecution for 1 month. Non-production of relevant documentations, prosecution for 1 month, etc. So practically, see, academically, if we talk, if you don't attend summons, etc., you can be prosecuted because if there is no appearance without a reasonable justification, section 174 can be invoked. But practically what happens? Generally, if you don't attend summons, these provisions are not invoked. Even if it is invoked, you go to the magistrate and say that this was my justifiable reason. Next time you please attend. Magistrate, will you attend? I say, yes, I will attend. And prosecution is never done for not attending the summon. But since summon is a judicial proceeding, always take this summon proceeding seriously. It has our advice. Always go there on time. Even if you want to demand extension, please demand reasonable extension only. Adhere to the summons, give the statement whichever is necessary, give the documents whatever they have called upon, behave like a bona fide taxpayer, cooperate with the department, attend all these summon proceedings, and take these summons seriously. So that's the practical approach of handling all these summons, etc. So what we will do is that we will discuss some of the practical aspects of these summons. What are the do's and don'ts? What are the points which we should keep in mind while dealing with all these summons? From client perspective, as a taxpayer perspective, or even if I'm a profession, what should I advise my client, etc. First of all, please note who can issue you a summon. The proper officer under this act. It is the proper officer only who can issue you a summon. So what do you mean by proper officer? See, I'm based in Delhi, North Delhi, suppose. So my jurisdiction is the officer who is assigned my jurisdiction. He's the proper officer. So he can issue me a summon. Whether this person can issue a summon to my customer who is located in Kerala. Say I'm a tech trader. I'm dealing in trading of goods. I sold a certain goods to my customer who is in Kerala. Can my jurisdictional officer issue a summon to my customer in Kerala? The answer is no. A proper officer can issue summon only up to 200 kilometers from my jurisdiction. So if I'm based out of North Delhi, then I can issue maximum up to 200 kilometers. There's a jurisdiction which he has. So my jurisdictional officer can issue summon only up to 200 kilometers. Second is DGGI. DGI is a central intelligence unit which has all over India jurisdiction. So DGI Delhi can issue summon to anybody, whether in Delhi or outside Delhi, say Kerala, Kanyakumari, Jammu, Kashmir, anywhere. So they have all in India jurisdiction. Third is anti-evasion. So anti-evasion team is generally state-wise. So it is within the state they can issue the summon. So whenever you get a summon, please look at the proper officer, whether he's the proper officer to issue a summon or not. If you are in Delhi, you're getting a summon from a jurisdictional officer in Maharashtra, no need to attend. He's not the professor officer. But if it is DGI, go and attend. Second, statements, whether admissible as evidence. Statements before GST officers can be admissible as evidence under the court of law. Friends, if we see section 25 and 26 of the Indian Evidence Act, it's a settled principle. A confession made by a person to the police officer is inadmissible and holds no value. I repeat, a confession made by a person to the police officer is inadmissible and holds no value. And we know the reason for this, how police officer record the statement. In the context of a taxation law, specifically Customs Act, issue rose before the Supreme Court in the case of Romesh Chandra Mehta. There, the SEC tried to argue that the section 25 and 26 should be applicable to custom officer also, and any statement given before that should not be admissible as evidence, because you have given them the same power as police officer when you are giving them the power to arrest. So any evidence, any statement given before them should not be treated as an evidence, etc. The court held that no, they will be treated as evidence. And why they held? What is the reason behind this? The reason is they said that we understand how practically the statements are recorded before the police officer, but that is not the case before the taxation officer. So whatever statement you give before the taxation officer, you give with full presence, full mind, and accordingly, all the statements given by you will be treated as evidence. So it is very important to note that whenever I am giving any statement, submitting any documentations, please give correct statements only. If you are not aware about any fact, simply say that I am not aware. That is the perfect answer to give. Don't enter into any interpretational issue that this judgment says so, this judgment says so. Statement is a process for recording the facts. Always says correct fact. If you are not aware about the correct fact, please simply say, I am not the right person to answer this question, and accordingly, I am not in a position to answer this. Never ever give wrong facts, wrong statements, because these statements are treated as an evidence under the court of law. Surprisingly, to my view, and with utmost respect to the Supreme Court judgment, the distinction is taxation officer are different from police officer, and hence before police officer, your statement is not treated as evidence. It holds no value. But before taxation officer, it holds value. But what practically is happening in last couple of years, the investigations by the tax officer is not less than the way police is conducting investigation. They keep you waiting till long hours. They keep calling MD, CFO. They keep on threatening them. The kind of pressure they create, person effectively, they're actually at ground level. You don't feel any difference between the way police is working and the way this tax officer is working. Even there is a Supreme Court guidelines that CCTV camera should be installed, etc. You will not find at ground level where this is installed. Nowhere, whether anti-evasion, DGI, whichever part of the country you go, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you will not find CCTV camera being installed. You know at ground level how this investigation is conducting, the kind of pressure they create. They speak at a very high volume, high pitch. They try to, like all these management guys, etc. They keep on summoning the management guys, CFO, director, managing director, who are not generally aware about the tax laws on daily basis. It's a tax team who's undertaking, and they keep on asking all sorts of questions, creating pressure, making them sit till night, late night. Series of cases, tax deposit at 4 a.m. Swiggy judgments, Karnataka High Court, 4 a.m. the tax was deposited. Who deposit tax at 4 a.m. in the morning? It's the pressure only based on which all these investigations are being conducted, etc. In spite of various CBIC guidelines, there are a series of guidelines on this, how investigation should be done. Let me read some of the guidelines. Summon is to be issued at the last resort where SSCs are not cooperating, and this section should not be used for the top management. We have seen it practically. First, someone issued to the top management on issues like 2A3B. I repeat, on issues like 2A3B, someone directly issued to the top management. That is the kind of work which is being, that's the kind of intelligence-based inquiries which is being done by the anti-evasion and the DCGI authorities. Summons should not be issued repeatedly. As far as practical, the statement of the accused or witness should be recorded in a minimum number of appearances. Nobody follows this. During COVID time, etc., we requested so many officials, please give us virtual hearing if you want to record our statement. We are speaking over the net. Why you want to call me in person? Why not implement it in a faceless manner? Why not have a virtual hearing? Ultimately, your objective is to know the facts. What are the facts available? What is my statement? What is my view? What is the current situation of the company? Let's have a Zoom call. Let's have an online call. Let me give me a virtual hearing. When Supreme Court of the India, High Court of the India is allowing virtual hearings, but these investigation authorities are not allowing virtual hearings. Why? Because they know if I give a virtual hearing, nobody will come under pressure. They will not deposit any tax. They will not write the way I want. So they, in spite of having so many positive CBI guidelines, etc., nothing is implemented at ground level. And what practically happens at ground level is that they create a lot of pressure to make you write statement in a manner that enhances the chances of their case. And sometimes you, being not a regular person who goes to the tax departments on a regular basis, sometimes we feel management under pressure write something which they don't want to write. And here you should be aware about the next aspect of summons, your next right, which is the law of retraction. If a statement is subsequently found to be incorrect or was given not under proper mind or under caution, the same can be retracted at the earliest possible time. So if you particularly, what practically happen is that if you actually go and attend a summon, etc., and what you should do is that whatever you write to the best of your knowledge, write always correct, don't write anything wrong, don't come under pressure. If you don't know, don't write. Please follow all these steps. In spite of following all these steps, sometimes what happens is that since you are sitting late at night, since 3 a.m. in the morning, and when you are signing the statement, you are writing the statement 3 a.m. in the morning, they make you write certain wordings, etc., which is totally against you, which you don't intend to write. No worries, sign it and come back. I repeat, no worries, sign it and come back. If they are creating too much of pressure, you have the right to retract the same. Next day or over a couple of after few days, like when you have to retract is an art. It's not that you retract the very same day, then again someone will be issued. You may retract the same after 20 days also, 15 days also, depending upon the type of officer, depending upon the strategy which you want to opt, which you have to discuss with your consultant. So you have a timeline to retract the same before show cause notice. There are cases where people have retracted after SCN also, but it is always advisable to retract within the reasonable period of time. How do you retract? Write a letter to them that, sir, this is my process, this is what I wanted to convey, and this is for your information. In the statement, this might have felt in this manner, but this is the correct manner, in a very polite manner. So that is something which you have to actually use at the ground level, the law of retraction. And when to retract is practically an art which you have to see case to case basis. Next is, can a CA or advocate accompany the taxpayer? Practically at ground level, officers don't allow until unless it's not a very major case or you have a good relationship with the officer. You generally go to the department as a consultant day in, day out, they allow you. But what is the legal position? The judiciary is divided. The judiciary is divided into this issue. There are certain judgments which says you cannot be allowed. There are certain judgments which says you may be allowed, but at a distance which is away from the hearing distance. In the sense, you can just see him. So there are practically, so what sometimes client says, they have been summoned. If like we, along with the client, we go to the taxpayer, along with the taxpayer to the department. Many times they allow the consultant also, but there are times where they don't allow the consultant. Then the taxpayer says, sir, what to do? Should we go to the High Court and take permission, etc.? We avoid. We say, don't go to the High Court. You will hardly get any permission, etc. We are there. We are sitting at a distance to you. Don't worry. Give statements and come back. So we have to give that confidence to the taxpayer. And mostly what happens is during statement, etc., many times they say that particular person has given this statement, that particular person has given this statement, your transporter has given a statement that you have not sold the goods, your customer has given the statement that you have not sold the goods and he has not received the goods, it's a fake invoice, etc. So many times they take names. So that's a very basic art of department, to take names, that your MD has said so, your junior has said so, your salesperson has said so, your customer has said so, transporter, vendor, etc. Please don't go by names. SSC has a right to cross-examine the witness third party whose statement has been obtained and used against such person. If they are taking names, please tell to the officer that I want to cross-examine this. He is speaking lie. Please call him in front of me. Give me the right of cross-examination. So whenever these days we are seeing so many show cause notices on fake invoices, etc., wherein the allegation has been made based on the statement of the vendors or the transporters that this taxpayer is fake, etc., and a show cause notice is issued. No cross objection right is given. Never, no cross objection inquiry or examination is undertaken. So we write in the show cause notice that please allow us cross objection, please allow us cross examination, etc. And there are a series of judgments wherein if the right of cross examination is not given, the tribunals and the courts have quashed the show cause notice. So I should be aware this is the right which I have to use. So these are the basic principles which we should keep in mind whenever we are dealing in summons. To summarize, please attend summons. Don't avoid. There is no harm in taking extensions. 1, 2, 3 extensions, fine enough. But show that you are cooperating. Sometimes officers are cooperative, sometimes officers are not cooperative. They create a lot of pressure. Please don't get scared. Deal with this pressure. Take the advice of the best of the people and don't get into pressure. There is a proper strategy to deal with each of these summons. Always speak correctly, always give correct information. And the biggest threat during summon, during investigation is the arrest. Please note, on a classification issue, you cannot get arrested. We have seen DGI threatening, I will arrest you if you don't pay this tax. It is 40 crore rupees tax evasion, etc. You can't get arrested in a classification issue, in a valuation issue, in an ITC 42, 43 reversal issue, interpretational issues, etc. It is only those 4 specified offenses which we discussed where the arrest could have been invoked. Moving on to the next and the last topic is payment during investigation. So what practically happens is that whenever anti-evasion team comes or DJI comes, they come in the morning, afternoon, evening, etc. But they will always go late night or next early day morning, or they will continue with the search for 2-3 days. They don't leave within the office hours. Their general practice is to stay till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, pressurize the client and get the tax paid. There are multiple issues. First, if I pay any tax under that pressure to the authorities, it is a liability which I have admitted. 3 a.m. I'm making a deposit. Is it a liability which I have admitted? Very important judgment in the case of Madras High Court. I will read what it said. There, what the taxpayer did was he applied for refund. The tax was paid, then he went and applied for refund, and what the court held. Section 74(5), under which I paid the tax, is not a statutory section for advance tax payment pending final determination in assessment. It is contrary to the scheme of assessment set out under Section 74. Merely because an SSC has made a few payment as per his signed statement under stress of investigation, it cannot lead to self-assessment or self-assessment of tax. Had such self-assessment been made in terms of Section 74(6), there would be no further proceeding for show cause under 74(1). So what they effectively said that this is not your final assessment. It is not your admitted liability. You are eligible for the refund. And the same thing happened with the Swiggy case in case of Karnataka High Court also. They are at 4 a.m., practically at 4 a.m., they deposited a good amount of tax. And when Swiggy went to High Court, they acknowledged this, that this payment was under protest. It was not a self-ascertained tax and they have a right to refund. So whatever amount you pay under pressure, you can always opt for refund. Another practical issues which we are facing is whether this amount, if I want to pay, should I pay using cash or ITC? They officers practically pressurizes that please pay using cash and not ITC, etc. The recent circular has clarified that even the investigation amount can be paid through ITC. It is only the interest and penalty which you cannot pay. Otherwise, all tax liabilities arising out of returns or during investigation can be paid out of ITC. Even this is a very important judgment. Bhumi Associate Gujarat High Court. There, they in fact instructed CBIC to issue guidelines, and they instructed that on the date of search, even if taxpayer is coming voluntary and paying tax himself, don't collect the tax. Ask him not to pay the next day. So this is the instruction by the Bhumi Associate to issue guidelines. This is the instruction which they have given to the CBIC to issue guidelines that please stop this practice of collecting the tax on the date of search. We are aware when you collect on the date of search, this is effectively not a voluntary payment. This is a payment under pressure only. Don't collect at that moment of time. Collect the next day. This was the wordings of the High Court, and they instructed CBIC, and CBIC has come out with this instruction, but not the way what Bhumi Associates have held. They have said in a very simple language that no recovery can be made during search, etc. You have to follow the due process of show cause notice, adjudication, etc. If somebody wants to come pay voluntary, you take voluntary payments, but you cannot recover. All the proceedings of adjudication has been followed. You cannot recover just like that. But if somebody wants to pay voluntary, he may pay so. On the date of search, whether I'm paying voluntary or it is under pressure is the question of law. If they allow, if the instruction would have been that don't collect the amount on the date of search, collect it thereafter only, then only in real terms it could have been a voluntary payment. But this seems to be like a normal instruction to me, the way in so many other instructions of issuing summons have been issued by CBIC, etc. And at ground level, even after these instructions, the way Anti-Evasion and DGI and all authorities are dealing, it is same. So you should have a proper strategy to deal with all these investigations. So with this, we end our webinar for the day, and now we will take up the various question and answer. Can a tax professional be summoned in connection with any inquiry against the taxpayer? See what section 70 says. The section says, if a proper officer feels that he considers attendance of any person, the word uses any person necessary, he can summon that. So I've seen at ground level, the chartered accountants of the taxpayers, etc., being getting summoned. So the way summon, because summon is only an investigation. Summon is only a data collection inquiry, facts finding exercise, etc. So legally, the way section 70 is drafted, yes, the CA, etc., can also be summoned. The tax professional, whether advocate, etc., anybody, they can be summoned. The next issue is whether DIN is mandatory. Yes, DIN is mandatory on every summons. So there is a circular also that in any communication, in fact, it's not only summon, DIN is mandatory in every kind of communication, whatever there is from the department. So DIN is mandatory. If there is no DIN, it is not a valid communication by the department. The next question is, whether power to summon itself is a power of conducting inquiry. See, summon is a process of collecting the facts and the data, etc. It's a part of the investigation process. So, but it is not a proceeding which is issued. Summon is not a legal proceeding. Legal proceeding is when you get a scrutiny notice under section 61, when you get a show cause notice, or when you are actually all these scrutiny notices, show cause notices, assessments, audits, all these are conducted. Summon is a step prior to that. It's only a fact finding, collection finding data. It's a part of your investigation process. It's a first process. Can a person be arrested without adjudication of the show cause notice? See, that's what practically happening. And that's what the Telangana High Court in case of P.V. Narman Reddy and in Gujarat High Court has held, that adjudication is not necessary GST arrest provision can be invoked before the adjudication process also if a commissioner has reason to believe that somebody has to be arrested so that the investigation can go without any hindrance. He may do so. So yes, practically without adjudication, person can be arrested. There is no how many times a summon can be issued. There is no limit. I've seen a case, a single person was summoned more than 15 times. So it depends. There is no limit. Can provisions of CRPC can be invoked for a summons? Yes, in fact, section 70 subsection 2 itself says that these entire summon proceedings are nothing but a judicial proceeding under the IPC Act. And accordingly, section 193 is applicable, 228 is applicable, 174 of the IPC Act is applicable, 175 of the IPC Act is applicable. See, if a summon can be issued if after the material asked is already on record with the department. So if they are issuing summon, if the material is already with the department, write a letter to them, sir. These are the material which I have already given to you. These are the various documents which you want. Give them again if they want. So better, see, don't leave someone as it is. Give a reply to the summon. Even if you don't want to attend, feel that he's giving summons again and again, simply write to the summon, reply to the authority that I've been summoned already so many times. I've already given the detail. This detail is already with you. This is so, and accordingly make a reply to them. Don't avoid summon. So that's my answer. Because all this helps you in later stage of time, not at the time of investigation when the things actually turn into a litigation. All these small things will be of great help to you. With this, I think we have covered all the issues. I think there are certain issues in chat box also. Let me go through that. If payments are made during investigation, can penalty under section 74 subsection 5 be applicable? So practically what happens is that what DGI do is that, or anti-evasion under section 74 even jurisdiction, to close a case under 74, they will always ask you to pay tax plus interest plus 15% penalty. Then only they will close the case. Otherwise, you pay tax during such etc. Thereafter, they will issue a show cause notice. You fight, they will invoke penalty. If you want to close fully, tax plus interest plus 15% penalty. Otherwise, be ready for the SCN. Hardly in few cases, they make case under 73, but more than 95 to 97% cases, they make case under 74 only. I think with this, we end our presentation. Over to you, Taxman.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful presentation. We really appreciate the time and effort you take to prepare the subject matter and precisely explain it to the audience. I also extend our thanks to the participants for being so cooperative. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us in this session and make it a success. Though Mr. Tushar has tried to reply to your queries raised during this session, yet in case you have any further questions, you may send them to us in writing at sales@taxman.com. Thank you all once again. We shall soon be back with another vital topic. Till then, stay safe and have a great time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.